Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all of participants. Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya dan juga salam kebajikan. Welcome to the high level dialogue on IPP Just Energy Transition Initiatives, Tuesday, November 15, 2022 at Nico Hotel Bali. Please give a big round of applause to check our spirit today before we start our discussion. My name is Febrina and I'm very happy because it's a precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony on this very special occasion, the high level dialogue on IPP Just Energy Transition Initiatives. First of all, let's praise our God who has give us guidance, healthy and mercy so we can attend and participate in this special event without any obstacles. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our agenda today, allow me to deliver the housekeeping rules of today's activities. This forum will be conducted in bilingual English and Indonesia. And we've provided an interpreter on the Zoom application. And for those of you who join us here and need translation services, we kindly suggest you to connect on Zoom through the link we have provided on your table. Ladies and gentlemen, at the G20 summit, the government of Indonesia would likely announce the plan for the coal retirement roadmap. To support the national energy transition roadmap and clean energy development, IPP contribution should be encouraged while paying close attention to aspects of energy security, guaranteed electricity supply, and affordable electricity prices so that energy access and economic growth are not hampered. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, our forum today is initiated by Institute for Essential Services Reform and Asosiasi Produsen Listrik Swasta Indonesia to discuss the potential of IPP support in Indonesia's energy transition roadmap bundled together with acceleration of early development of renewable power to fill in the energy requirement. So without any further ado, let's begin this forum by hearing an opening speech from the chairman of APLSI, Bapak Arthur Simatupang. To Bapak Arthur Simatupang, the floor is yours.
Thank you. A very good morning to everyone who is able to participate and join us this morning in this beautiful island of Bali, where we also have had experienced, some of us, the big B20 summit that has been going on and all the series of side event that has been very exciting for the business community from 20 largest countries in the world, including Indonesia, and the fact that we are able to host this prestigious event followed by the Leaders Summit that is going on right now. So apologies for a bit of the delay because of all the security protocol, but thank you for everyone who can make it. And also for everyone who's also joining us online, a very good welcome to you as well. And Pak Rida and Pak Pradana and Pak Dadan and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who was able to come, thank you for your presence this morning. And, I would just like to share a bit of slide of who we are and what we're doing and why we decided to do this dialogue this morning on the just energy transition. If you can have the slide. So I'll explain. Basically, what we're trying to do here is also just provide initiatives and also highlight the contribution that we have had in the past as IPP coming from the private sector. This was initiated by the fast track program that was administered by two previous presidential administration by President SBY and Jokowi, in which they encourage participation from the private sector to increase electrification in the national electric grid in Indonesia. And back then the mandate was open to the private sector to build as many as possible with the planning that was updated and highlighted each year based on the National Energy Planning and also the RUPTL by PLN. And because of that, our participation has increased, and most of that ended up needing an organization to form a dialogue and to form together a communication with each member and also with each other, and also providing a voice to the government. Next. Next slide. Yes, so our members consist of the national energy companies that are mostly involved and represented here, both online and offline. A lot of them have started from the upstream, both in mining and in oil and gas. And we've decided to participate and build more downstream, in line with the government to increase downstream and industrialization in Indonesia, in which they require a lot of energy and power. So a lot of that have decided to build plants. A lot of it was actually based on the availability that was available in the REPTL, and a lot of them were still fossil-based. And we have engaged a lot of the communication with our partners and stakeholders, and we've also increased our capabilities. Most of us have already done, did financial closing, did COD, and now they're up and running. They're currently operating projects scattered throughout Indonesia, from Sabang to Merauke, from different size and various sources of energy. And we continue to support the government of Indonesia also going forward with the national climate initiatives. And also that we would like to foster a diversification of the source of energy going forward, but continue to provide and contribute to Indonesia's national electricity program. Next. Okay, so today I think I welcome everyone's input today. This is an open dialogue, and I think because of the high participation that is involved in today's discussion, we would like to have more of an interactive type of event. And I think today it will be followed by also basically, there is able to people have a panel session here and talk to each other about the current issues on both the coal retirement and also the acceleration of the new and renewable energy. So I urge you to partner and collaborate with us and increase awareness of the need for Indonesia to continue to have the adequate amount of energy security, and also be able to provide access that is affordable and just to everyone, while at the same time really focusing on the impact to greenhouse gas emission and also the current climate change. Next. This is the leadership of APLSI. APLSI is Asosiasi Produsen Listrik Swasta Indonesia, or the Association of IPP. Our vice chairman here is Pak Lokita. I think he's joining us online, but still trying to make his way here. Pak Dharma, who is on his way back to Jakarta this morning. And Pak Priya Manaya from Priya Manaya Group is our general secretary, and also Pak Adrian Lembong, who was previously with Adaro, but now is also involved in a large undertaking in North Kalimantan to build a large hydro infrastructure, which is also part of the national initiative to provide green and renewable energy for industrial development in North Kalimantan, and to be able to match the supply and demand where the source of energy is under the REBIED. Next. Next slide, please. Okay, this is basically, you've seen it all. Basically, we are a country that is blessed with abundant renewables resources, and we see this as a great investment opportunity in clean energy. And we will continue as national energy companies that have had the right track record, that we have successfully built projects in Indonesia and partnered with a lot of our project sponsors and lenders, and we've been able to deliver that and supply that to the national grid. We would like to continue to invest in opportunities in clean energy. And with the abundance of renewable sources that is scattered throughout Indonesia, we would continue to participate in this because it's currently underutilized. It is only 2.5% utilization rate of the new and renewable energy resources that are available in Indonesia. You name it, there's geothermal, hydro, solar is big. Wind, we're actually looking at a few, and there is a lot of area where based on the wind mass data, there's also a lot of potential of capturing that and creating that, turning that into an energy. And also ocean, everyone is looking at it as something new, a new pioneer, but we have the largest ocean front, one of them in around this region and probably around the world, and we need to be able to capture that and turn that and store that into energy as well. Next slide, please. And based on the latest RUPTL that has been executed by PLN successfully last year, we see that it has been a turning point, a really good inflection point that we are trying to commit ourselves to developing more renewable energy plants. And I think the master plan translates that really well. It has mapped out where the resources are in each island and what sources of energy. And this addition, I think, the plan is actually to target to reach up to 20.9 gigawatt, which is almost 52% of total PLN power plants in the next 10 years, which is a big undertaking in renewable. So this is basically the first green RUPTL that we have seen. And I think the key is actually to continue to provide the grid balance and stability. And I think, we will work and partner together with PLN to also provide, a good, smart grid system that is able to tackle and handle issues such as intermittency and storage and things like that. And this will always, one highlight that we need to see is the fact that this also creates new employment and job opportunities. Almost 300,000 jobs are created from the new and renewable energy development sector in Indonesia. It's a great opportunity that we look at it from the IPP point of view. Next. Okay, I basically got this from the Maritime and Investment Coordinating Minister as well. I think we follow a two-track approach. One, I think here is represented by a lot of financial institutions such as SME, and we've also had a discussion with ADB and INA that is also trying to structure it the right way. And I think there has been a few, there was an MOU that was signed yesterday. I think we would like to emulate that and use that as a base to be able to go forward and see if this is the right structure going forward. So there are two sides. One is initiated by the government under the ETM, or the Energy Transition Mechanism. And the other one is a partnership with the Southeast Asia. And also we're also doing a joint feasibility study and start this pilot starting next year. To also highlight, I think last Friday, APLSC also signed a declaration with the Kadin Net Zero Hub to start decarbonizing, and we are doing that in collaboration with Kadin and also with the World Resource Institute, the WRI. Next. Yes, I think you've seen it all. This is basically a combination and the whole map of energy transition mechanism, in which you start by, some of the asset owners, basically the one that has high emission, is able to submit the asset and input that into the mechanism to have some funding to be able to retire that at a certain age that is earlier than the current PPA, and at the same time to be able to reallocate that into investment into new energy. I think this is, I think we've seen the structure, and we've had this discussion with blended financing using both private and public financing as well as philanthropic. And I think, we'd be keen to look at this as something that is workable in Indonesia, and that we're able to see it as something, as a way to move forward. And at the same time, concurrently, continue to provide the exact amount of energy replacement from renewables using the carbon reduction fund and moving into the a clean energy fund at the same time. Next. let me just highlight a few things before I end this. Government regulation, I think Pak Rida is here as well and Pak Dadan representing government. But I would just like to highlight the fact that the government has also introduced a lot of new regulation that supports us in moving towards the net zero emission target and dealing with greenhouse gas emission and the climate change issues from the energy sector. Next. Yes, we've seen a few implementing regulation. This involves the private sector. There was a bill on renewable energy, and there's a few regulation, two coming from Minister of Energy and Mining Resources, and five of them in the form of regulation and two in the form of decree. And I think this will continue to provide incentives and support to prioritize, say the local involvement, local products, and I think this is the whole issue of just an energy transition, the whole concept that the energy transition should leave no one behind, and I think this should be a very Indonesia case. I think we would like to see that successfully implemented here. Next. That is all from me. Thank you, for this opportunity. I think we will hear more, and I think this will be an exciting discussion that we had today. Coming both from all the stakeholders that are involved here. So again, welcome to you all, and please enjoy this morning of having a good dialogue of how we can transition our energy in a just and equitable way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for Bapak Arthur Simatupang as the chairman of APLSI for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next agenda is the keynote speech, which will be delivered by the Secretary General of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, Bapak Rida Mulyana, who is joining us online. To Bapak Rida Mulyana, you might take the floor.
Okay. Thank you. Terima kasih. Is the quality of my voice is good or not? Hello. Anyone?
Notice Bapak suaranya double, tapi ya.
Because the sound is look like echoing.
Oke Pak, sekarang udah bagus.
Oke, thank you. Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Arthur Simatupang, Chairman of APLSI, Pak Bitumiwa, distinguished speaker, participant, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to convey and apologize that Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources of Indonesia, Your Excellency Mr. Arifin Tasrif, was unable to attend this event due to urgent state duty. And His Excellency expressed his appreciation to Pak Arthur and Pak Babi for organizing this event excellently. And I'm also apologize Pak Arthur because the security protocol I cannot able to join in person. In this opportunity, I'm going to talk about Indonesian phase down coal-fired power plant strategy and policy roadmap as a scenario for the energy sector to achieve net zero emission by 2060. As we all already knew, Indonesia G20 presidency is focusing on the three main pillars. One of them is sustainable energy transition. Energy transition towards sustainable recovery can be achieved by implementing secure energy access, enhancing smart and clean energy technology, and also by advancing energy finance. Indonesia has already developed an energy transition roadmap to achieve net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. Within this roadmap, we aim to, as mentioned by Arthur earlier, we are going to develop at least 700 gigawatt of renewable in the energy mix, coming from solar mostly, and then from hydro, ocean, geothermal, as well as hydrogen and nuclear. Just to add the thing that already delivered by Arthur, currently the total capacity for the existing power plant is around 77 gigawatt, and half of it come from the coal. PLN, through its National Electricity Supply Business Plan, or what we call, and also mentioned by Arthur, RUPTL, especially for year 2021 to 2030, has targeted a greener business plan by adding renewable energy power plant up to 51.6% or equivalent to 20.9 gigawatt. In this greener business plan, fossil power plant share is up almost 20 gigawatt and almost 14 gigawatt generated from coal. There are some strategy from the government side to gradual retirement of coal power plant in coming years. Among others, of course, natural retirement based on the maximum of 30 years contract. As you know, in general, IPP capacity will increase until 2030, but after that, additional IPP is not allowed unless it is already constructed or under construction. The last IPP will be terminated in 2058. There will be no extension of the contract as well. So the second strategy is by optimizing biomass co-firing coal power plant to reduce coal consumption and also to reduce the CO2 emission. We are targeting to utilize around 10 ton of biomass in 2025. And the last thing regarding the strategy is to implement a carbon tax on limited basis to IPP, and it will gradually expand it to other sectors according to several economic considerations. Distinguished Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the early retirement CIF studies, I got to have underlined, the retirement CIF study, not the decision, has been conducted and almost completed. This study estimates the requirement for funding and the amount of emission that can be reduced from IPP in so far 33 locations in Indonesia with a total capacity of 16.8 gigawatt. As we can expect it, the sooner the retirement is carried out, the greater the cost required because of the obligation to repay the loan and interest is still going on. The government of Indonesia, I think this thing also has been mentioned by Arthur, has issued and prepared some of the relation to pass down the IPP, among others. I'm going to inform you the regulation related to the energy sector only. The first one is the Presidential Regulation on Carbon Economic Value that has been enacted to regulate the mechanism for carbon trading system. economic incentive and also carbon levies. And the second is the presidential regulation on the acceleration of renewable energy development for electricity supply that has been stipulated to provide a better and conducive renewable energy investment and also to pass down the coal-fired power plant. And the third is the Ministerial of Energy and Mineral Resources regulation on carbon tax and trading in power generation that currently is being finalized, which require coal plant to reduce their emission through cap and tax mechanism. To conclude my speech, allow me to reiterate that partnership has a crucial role in progressing just, affordable, and secure transition. It is also important in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, which are fundamental to tackle global energy problems, as well as to mitigate climate change. I'm forever grateful for our strong and steady partnership on decarbonizing our energy system and accelerating energy transition. With that, I end up my speech. Thank you. Back to Prablina.
Thank you very much, Bapak Rida Mulyana, for the keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will start our discussion by having presentation session from our experts, but you can also enjoy some refreshment that we provided on my right side. So now the first presentation with the team called in the Net Zero Transition Indonesia's Perspective will be delivered by the power sector modeler from International Energy Agency, Mr. Thomas Spencer, who is joining us online. To Mr. Thomas, the time is yours.
You can hear me okay? Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just share my screen then. So let me start by thanking the organizers, IESR and APSI, for the invitation to join you this morning. The IEA is very happy to accept and to join the discussion. We have been collaborating with the government of Indonesia and stakeholders in Indonesia now for many years. And Indonesia has been an associate member of the IEA since 2016. This year is indeed a very special year for the collaboration between the International Energy Agency and the IEA because of Indonesia's hosting of the G20 this year. And as part of this collaboration, the IEA and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources have worked on a joint project looking at modeling Indonesia's pathway to net zero emissions by 2060, which was published in September this year. So I'm going to present to you quite briefly some of the highlights from this report, particularly as they pertain to the issue of the role of coal in Indonesia's electricity sector. But before I talk about Indonesia, I would like to spend one slide talking about the global perspective. I'm sure, as you're aware, every year the IEA publishes its International World Energy Outlook, which we published in November this year. And this publication gives a deep dive into the outlook for the energy sector for the next few decades. And in this year's outlook, we particularly looked at the question of the future of the coal sector internationally in view of the current energy crisis. And what we see is that in the next few years, we expect a small increase in coal consumption globally as developing economies continue to grow their consumption of coal. And as in developed economies, there is a small uptick in coal consumption as some power stations switch from gas to coal. In the longer term, however, we expect coal in the electricity sector to peak within the next few years and enter into a decline. And the reason for this is, firstly, electricity demand in places like China and advanced economies is not growing as rapidly as it was in past years. But the most important reason is that alternative sources of electricity generation are growing extremely rapidly. So last year we saw a record growth in the contribution of renewables to global electricity generation, more than 500 terawatt hours of growth in global renewables generation. That's more than the total electricity generation of Indonesia. We expect this year that to be 700 terawatt hours of growth of renewables in global electricity generation, so beating last year's record. By 2030, we expect, even under current policy settings, so this is without an acceleration of our policies against climate change, that global coal generation will decrease by more than 1,000 terawatt hours compared to today, and will be replaced by the growth of renewables, in particular solar PV and wind. And as a result of this, we project that under current policy settings, global emissions from the electricity generation sector will peak in the next few years and will enter into a structural decline. And a large part of that is due to the transition away from coal in advanced economies and the much more muted growth rate in coal-fired electricity generation in developing economies as a group. So that gives you a little bit the global picture. Now turning to Indonesia, the first point that I would like to make regarding Indonesia is that I think we need to keep the issue of transition in the electricity generation sector within the perspective of Indonesia's overall energy transition, but also within the perspective of Indonesia's economic transition as it strives to become an advanced economy by 2045. And so critical to that is the role that coal plays today in Indonesia's economy. In order to assess the role of coal in both the energy systems but also the economic systems of different countries, the IEA has developed what we call the Coal Transition Exposure Index, which is a quantified index covering 8 indicators that look at the role of coal in the energy mix of different countries, the needs of different countries in terms of growing their energy demand to meet their development needs, the role of coal in the economic structure of the country, whether it be in terms of the jobs market or the exports of the country, and then the age of the coal-fired assets in the country. And you can see from the chart on the screen that across these 8 indicators, if we aggregate the results from all of them, Indonesia scores highest out of any country on our Coal Transition Exposure Index. And this is essentially because it scores highly across all of these different indicators. In terms of coal share in electricity generation, it's more than, it's around 60%. Indonesia is still a middle-income country, so it has a large energy demand and growth need. Coal is the largest source of Indonesia's exports, so it plays an important role in Indonesia's economic structure. And the age of Indonesia's coal-fired assets is quite young. So the capacity-weighted age of coal in the power sector is only 13 years. And that's, for example, younger than the capacity rated age of coal-fired power plants in China. So I think it's important to keep this broader context in mind and understand that when we talk about coal transition in Indonesia's energy sector or Indonesia's power sector, we need to keep in mind this has to involve economic transition as well. So in our report, we developed what we call the Announced Pledges Scenario, or APS, which essentially implements Indonesia's goal of reaching a net zero emissions economy-wide by 2060. And in that scenario, electricity really plays a leading role for two reasons. First of all, because it is the largest source of emissions in Indonesia today, but secondly, because it's an essential part of the decarbonization of other sectors as they electrify more and more of their energy consumption. So really, electricity is at the heart of the energy transition in Indonesia as it strives to reach its net zero objective. In the APS scenario, coal generation peaks in the early 2030s. So it continues to rise across the current decade as the under construction power plants are added to the system and as electricity demand growth is quite strong this decade. But we also see a critical role for this decade for establishing renewable technologies as viable, cost-effective options in Indonesia. So by 2030 in this scenario, the installed capacity of renewables in Indonesia reaches more than 50 gigawatt. And this lays a foundation for Indonesia's coal-fired generation to peak early 2030s and then to decline both as plants reach the end of their technical lifetime, but also as it becomes more and more cost-effective to reduce the full load hours of the coal fleet and scale up renewables. In our modeling, this scenario can be achieved without an increase in the fundamental costs of electricity supply. And this includes all the components of electricity supply, whether it be the recovery of capital invested in existing plants that are on the system today or that are added in the model in future years, whether it be in terms of fuel expenditure or whether it be in terms of other cost components. In our modeling, if you take out the carbon price cost, which is not similar to the other cost components because it's a source of revenue for the government, and those revenues can be recycled into other purposes, then total electricity supply costs are stable compared to today and even slightly falling in the long term as the electricity system comes to be dominated by cost-effective renewable sources of supply. So I think this is an important message for us from the report, that provided the transition is done with robust and carefully designed policies and in a calibrated way, it can be done without raising electricity supply costs. And as I mentioned, those carbon pricing costs are not a cost component in the same way that other cost components are, in the sense that they provide revenues to the government that could be used for other social purposes. Even as Indonesia's electricity sector transitions, it's important to recognize that coal is going to play an important role for a number of decades as alternative sources of supply are scaled up. So by 2030 in our scenario, coal is providing slightly over 50% of total electricity generation, but it also has a critical role in providing peak capacity. So more than 50% of peak capacity on a sub-annual basis is provided by coal, and in providing flexibility. So this is the ability to vary its output up and down in order to follow the balance of demand and supply. So while we think about the retirement schedule for coal, it's also critical to think about the overall needs of the system in terms of peak capacity and flexibility, and the role that coal can play in that, in providing those system services as alternative sources of electricity generation are scaled up, but also as alternative sources of capacity and flexibility are scaled up. And the last message that I want to leave you with is that even as we focus on the discussion today in terms of the retirement schedule for the existing coal fleet, it's important for us to stress that front and center of the policy discussion in Indonesia today needs to be how can we make renewables cost effective and cheaper than they have been in recent years. So on the graph here, you can see the results of auctions for new power capacity in a number of countries in the year 2020. And you can see that in Indonesia, compared to other comparable countries, renewables are still relatively expensive in terms of revealed tariffs in competitive auctions. And it's important for us to stress that there's no fundamental reason for this to be the case. Indonesia has excellent solar resources, reasonable wind resources, and it's a very large market. So the cost of renewables could come down with the right policies to the levels that we've seen in other countries. And it's critical that even as we focus on coal, the thing that can enable in the long term coal to be retired from the system in an orderly way is the scale up of cost-effective renewables. And so we need to focus as much attention onto the policies that can lower the costs of renewables in Indonesia, provide certainty to investors, remove some of the bottlenecks that have been holding back the sector. So with that, I'll end my talk. Thank the organizers again for the invitation and hand back to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas Spencer, for the insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, step on to the next presentation with the theme Indonesia's Coal Retirement Roadmap will be delivered by Director of Electricity Program Development Conservation, Bapak Wanhar. To Bapak Wanhar, who join us online, you might take the floor.
Thank you, Master Ceremony. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, Pak.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. First of all, I would like to apologize that Pak Dadan could not join with us today due to he has a meeting with our minister. So, allow me, my name is Wanhar, to deliver Pak Dadan presentation on dialogue on IPP Just Energy Transition Initiative today. The title of the presentation is Indonesia Coal Retirement Roadmap. Next slide, please. For Indonesia, energy transition and national energy security, after COP21, until now, currently on the G20 presidency, Indonesia energy transition towards sustainable recovery and productivity that strengthening global clean energy system and a fair transition through securing energy accessibility, advancing smart and clean energy technologies, and advancing energy financing. In terms of the Indonesian NDC, Indonesia is committed to reduce GHG emission as stated in the National Determined Contribution Indonesia. And Indonesia has submitted a new ambitious target of NDC to the UNFCCC, which increased our reduction of the CO2 from 29% to 31.9%, while target with the international support was from 41% increased to the 43.2% at 2030, and achieve the net zero emission by 2060. Indonesia also supports seriously action to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius and avoid a future climate catastrophes. In terms of energy resiliencies, energy transition to new and renewable energy is an effort to ensure that availability of the energy that take into account environmental protection and sustainability at affordable price in the long term. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Indonesia in 2021 already take action we about 8.7 gigawatt coal project have been cancelled in RPTL PLN, and many project it's around 65 million ton CO2 per year will be avoided by Indonesia. Currently, the government of Indonesia is being sued by a business entities whose coal-fired power plant project is included in the list of the cancelled CFPPP. Even government lost and appeal to the Supreme Court right now. Next slide, please. If we're talking about the coal-fired power plant natural retirement, and the emission reduction, as shown is in slide, and the left slide is coal-fired power plant capacity. This is the natural roadmap. It will be zero in 2058. 2058. Some challenges away from the coal is pipeline of coal-fired power plant project could not cancel due to the legal aspect. Nickel and cobalt play the very important role in energy transition. Indonesia will use this kind of product to produce battery, and nickel and cobalt smelter are growing rapidly. The industries need a huge amount of the power to run the smelters. After that, smelter need stable and high reliability power supply. Nickel and cobalt resources usually far away from the renewable energy resources, such as hydro or geothermal, as well as hydro and geothermal take time to develop. It needs intermediate power supply. In terms of the emission, total emission from the power generation in 2022, around 243 million tons CO2, currently, and toward 2040 there will be a power plant emission peak, it's around 401 million tons CO2. In 2030 is around 340, if we add power from the captive, it will be around 357 million ton CO2. Emission will sharply decrease by 2046 in line with the retirement of coal power plant and gas combined cycle power plant. Emission will significantly falling down after 2056 following the completion of the fossil plant contract between PLN and the IPP. Emission on power plant will be zero before 2060. Currently, the portion of the IPP already 50%, if compared to the PLN capacity. If we compare to the national capacity, IPP already contribute around 43% of the national capacity. So IPP will be the second player, big second player in Indonesia after the PLN. Next slide, please. Pak Thomas already mentioned our demand in Indonesia. In this upright slide, in Pak Thomas is around 1,600 terawatt hour, but for Indonesia is around 1,900. The difference is because of the in IEA is not add some captive power. Captive power mean private power utility. We lose non-PLN and UPTS, izin usaha penyediaan tenaga listrik pentingan sendiri. So that's why there is a difference number between IEA and our data. In terms of the demand, demand industry, commercial, household, electricity, electric vehicle, green hydrogen, Indonesia still have a growth around 4.7% per annum. In terms of the generation, Indonesia, as also IEA mentioned before, will be also introduce a nuclear power. Nuclear power will be commercial in 2039, and increase, and the capacity will be until 31 gigawatt in 2060. In terms of the investment, the investment need for the Indonesian road net is around 1.1 trillion US dollar, or 28 billion US dollar per annum. In terms of the levelized cost of electricity, government have policy that it at least the similar with the others low cost power plant so the cost didn't make the BPP the cost of power up in the big value. Next slide, please. This slide is for describe conditionally on coal-fired power plant early retirement. The first one is only after the grid substitution is built. Coal-fired power plant can only be retired earlier once grid reliability is ensured with substitution from renewable replacement and or transmission system installation. Secondly, assurance of the just transition. There should not be any negative social impact from the coal plant early retirement. Thirdly, portability, levelized cost of electricity similar or better than the non-renewable and non-renewable energy alternative. Then the last report is a confirmed international financial support. This is very important. Overall cost of the early retirement, just transition and replacement must be covered with financial support from the international community. Next slide, please. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is all our presentation today. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Terima kasih Bapak Wanhar for the presentation that can give us some ideas and knowledge about the Indonesia's coal retirement roadmap. So ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, we will hear the presentation with the team ASEAN South Luzon Thermal Energy Corporation coal retirement, which will be delivered by the Deputy Chief Finance Officer ASEAN, Mr. Juan Martin Saikuya, who is joining us online. Yes, so to Mr. Juan Martin, the time is yours.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Hope you can hear me. Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Marty Sikia. I'd like to say thank you to everyone for inviting ASEAN to make this presentation. I'm the Deputy CFO of ASEAN Corporation. Sorry I could not be there with you today, as I was really looking forward to meeting all of you and catching up with a few friends there in Indonesia. I'm really excited to tell you about the recently concluded ETM transaction for SL Tech coal plant. I believe this could be the first ever market-based ETM in the world. Briefly, I wanted to share with you something about ASEAN. ASEAN is a fairly young company. We started in 2011. And we grew quite fast between 2011 to today. Today, we have 3.5 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity around the world. We're lucky to have been supported by strong partners. Our parent company, Ayala, and GIC is also an investor in ASEAN. So in our portfolio, currently we have about 6 to 7% in thermal power, including the SL Tech power plant, which we just recently divested this November. So in terms of our presence, we have about 40% of our capacity in the Philippines and the rest around the world. We are very focused on making sure that we reach 100% renewables generation portfolio by 2025. And to do that, we're counting on our robust financials and our strong balance sheet and our track record as a dependable power construction and developer throughout the world. Again, with that, the financials and our balance sheet, I'll tell you about it. It actually helped us complete this market-based ETM deal. In October 2021, ACEN committed to a net zero GHG target by 2050 or earlier. And to get there, firstly, we wanted to transition our generation portfolio to 100% renewable by 2025. And as a strategic move, we decided to employ the ETM for the early retirement of our Southern Luzon Thermal Energy Corporation coal plant. This is a 246 megawatt plant in Batangas, Philippines. Yeah. In terms of our transaction, though, we believe this is a very first ETM in the world, and it solidifies the path towards the early retirement of SLTech and its transition to cleaner technology. The challenge for us was really to divest of coal power, but again, the Philippines is very reliant on coal power. About 50% of our energy is from coal, and we had to do the divestment and the plan of the decommissioning of SLTech in a very responsible manner. Again, the ETM also gave us a route to achieving our net zero commitment by 2050. So the solution we came up, thanks to the ETM concept as discussed during the COP26, as well as before that in our discussions directly with the ADB, we were able to come up with a market-based solution where we work together with our partners, the banks, financial investors, as well as our SLTech team. So together with our financial backers, as well as with the team that was in SLTech, we were able to devise a structure which would address the requirements and concerns of all the parties that were involved in the transaction. So we are quite proud to say that the divestment had been completed in November. By committing to decommission the plant by 2040, we estimate that we will be cutting around 50 million metric tons of CO2 emissions by cutting the SLTech plant life by 25 years. And of course, this was all following the just transition principles as we commit to reskill the employees of SLTech, as well as to work together with the community in Calacap, Batangas. So for now, there are no answers yet to the new technology that we're going to apply to SLTech, but ACEN is committed to working together with the new owners of SLTech in arriving at a new solution or a new type of technology to repurpose the SLTech power plant and to make sure that the employees there are taken care of and the surrounding community will benefit from the repurposing of the plant. So we're very hopeful that the transaction we've done for SLTech will serve as a blueprint to other private developers that may want to pursue the ETM to decommission their plant earlier, as well as raise new funds for their operations. So we were looking for a very responsible way of divesting our stake in SLTech. Had we sold the plant outright to third parties, then we were not sure if the new owners would just operate the plant to the ground or if they'd responsibly commit to decommission the plant earlier. Secondly, we as ACEN also had contractual obligations to deliver power to the grid. So we wanted to make sure that with the divestment, we would still be able to make sure that SLTech delivers the power that's badly needed by the country. And we weren't sure that we would be able to achieve that had we just sold the plant to a third party. So when we learned about the ETM concept in 2021, it was really a light bulb moment for ASEN, where we said it might be possible to actually reduce the coal emissions in the world and make SLTech and commit to decommission SLTech earlier, but also to raise new capital for ASEN so that we can redeploy that to our renewable energy portfolio. So with the ETM framework, we were able to arrive at an elegant and innovative way of structuring a win-win solution for the financial investors, for our consumers, as well as for the community. Just to give you a bigger picture of how we were able to financially structure the deal. No? In April 2022, we re-levered the SLTech power plant. Initially, there was a 10 billion loan outstanding in SLTech. We approached banks and explained to them the ETM structure. And at that time, banks were already veering away from lending to coal power. So what we did was we convinced them of the energy transition principles under ETM. And lucky enough, no, there were two banks that were open and had the vision of supporting the ETM. So that those two financial investors, two lenders actually helped us increase the loan size at SLTech to 13.7 billion pesos, which is about 25 million US. So we re-levered SLTech, and from there, 10 billion was used to refinance the loan, and 3.5 was used to reduce the capital held by ASEN. So the common shares of ASEN actually reduced, and capital was returned to us. Secondly, we sold our redeemable pref shares in SLTech. So that's about 3.7 billion. So in total, ASEN was able to raise 7.2 billion pesos or $12.5 million, which we will use to increase our generating capacity in renewable projects. So ASEN will commit to retire the plant by 2040. And to this, I'll explain on the next page how we're able to make that commitment. No? So the challenges we faced were really educating investors about the coal challenge, no? and to make sure that they understand ETM and view this transaction as an ESG investment rather than as a coal investment. The other challenges we faced were project and market risk, which we actually addressed through an O&M and a capacity offtake contract between SLTech and ASEN. And also the other challenge we faced was 18 years is quite a long time for some investors to take. So we matched our profile of the borrowing or the funding required to the type of investors we approached. So we mainly approached insurance companies that have this natural demand for long-dated investments. One of the last challenges we faced was the rising interest rate environment, hence the speed at which we tried to close the transaction. So as the rates were coming up, it got more and more difficult to achieve a lower cost of financing to make SLTech still viable. But we're happy to say that, with this total transaction of about 17.4 billion pesos or 300 million US, we were able to achieve a blended cost of financing of about 6.5 to 7% interest rate. So in the structure, there were three important features. No? One is the O&M contract, where ASEN continues to operate and manage SLTech together with the new owners. And secondly, there's the administration and management agreement, which is really the offtake contract where ASEN would bear some of the fuel risk and operational risk of the plant. But thirdly, there's the call option between the investor and ACEN, where ACEN has the right to buy back the plant so that we can fulfill our commitment to decommission the plant by 2040. So all in all, the SLTech ETM allowed ACEN to meet its commitments to sustainable development goals. It achieves the transition to low carbon portfolio. It achieves excellence in environmental management, and it achieves fulfillment of our commitment to the community. So we're quite proud about being the first to achieve a market-based ETM in the world. Inspired by the ADB, we couldn't have done this without that framework. But it was really challenging to implement it, and we're very happy that we were able to successfully close the deal this November. So with the completion of the transaction, we're committed to removing 50 million metric tons of CO2 emissions. And we were also successful in raising 7.2 billion pesos in funding. Thanks very much for your attention. I hope this presentation from ACEN was useful to the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Juan Martin Saikuya, for the presentation. Indeed, it is a very useful presentation for us here. And ladies and gentlemen, we move on to our main agenda today, the declaration of IPP intention to support Indonesia's just energy transition roadmap in Indonesia. I would like to invite Bapak Arthur Simatupang as the chairman of IPLSI to declare and sign the statement. Please, Bapak Arthur.
Thank you very much. As part of today's event, I think one that we need to highlight is the fact that the private sector is willing to participate further in accelerating the energy transition. We understand there is still some things that needs to be tuned out on the detail, but I think the intention and the commitment is there from most of our members from the APLSE, representing the independent power producer, to declare a statement on decarbonization. And I think I will just read to you one by one what they are. I will also sign a document signifying the intention from the APLSE. I'll read this in Indonesia first and I'll try to translate to you. Number one, dukung peta jalan transisi energi berkeadilan di Indonesia. Satu, APLSI siap melakukan transformasi agar tetap dapat berkontribusi dalam kelistrikan nasional yang mandiri, semakin ramah lingkungan dan berkelanjutan demi mendukung target net zero emission. Kedua, mendukung rencana pemerintah Indonesia dan kebijakannya yang mendorong dekarbonisasi dan transisi energi. Yang ketiga, melakukan diversifikasi investasi pembangkit listrik dari berbagai alternatif sumber energi yang bersifat terbarukan yang potensinya sangat besar di Indonesia. Yang keempat, berkomitmen membuka kesempatan sumber energi ramah lingkungan terbarukan dan ekosistem pasokan energi yang berkelanjutan, termasuk kesempatan kerja di industri sektor yang ramah lingkungan. Yang kelima adalah mengoptimalkan peran swasta sebagai mitra pemerintah dalam membangun sistem kelistrikan yang handal dan transisi energi dijalankan secara berkeadilan, dan kita mengikuti konsep yang sudah dibahas sebelumnya yang sudah disetujui, yaitu Just Energy Transition Program. Bali 15 November 2022 atas nama anggota seluruh asosiasi produsen listrik swasta Indonesia, Chairman Arthur Simatupang, saya berkenan untuk mendukung peta jalan transisi energi hari ini di Bali. Terima kasih. Thank you.
And now we will witness Bapak Arthur.
For other members of APLSI who is willing to come and support,
Yeah.
Pak Priya.
And would like to invite all of the IPLSI members to be on stage to witness the sign statement. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are witnessing the chairman of APLSI, Bapak Arthur Simatupang, in signing the declaration of IPP intention to support Indonesia's just energy transition roadmap. Let's give a big round of applause. Hopefully, we can commit to support Indonesia's just energy transition roadmap. Also would like to invite all of the members of APLSI to be on stage to take a photo session. Please Bapak Ibu yang hadir sebagai member APLSI untuk naik ke atas panggung. Kami mengundang seluruh member APLSI untuk naik ke atas panggung untuk melakukan sesi foto bersama. Oke, jika sudah tidak ada, silakan Bapak yang sudah berada di atas panggung untuk bergaya untuk foto. 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi ya Pak. 1, 2, 3. Ya, beri tepuk tangan yang meriah. Silahkan Bapak untuk bisa duduk kembali. Oh, sekali lagi. Oke, baik. Terima kasih kepada Bapak. Silakan Bapak untuk menempati tempat duduknya kembali dan kita akan menyaksikan video deklarasi. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we proceed to the next agenda. But for all the participants here, you can enjoy the coffee, the tea, while we have the dialogue session. So now we will hear and observe the response to the statement and dialogue from our experts. And this dialogue session will be moderated by the Program Manager of Energy Transformation, Bapak Deon Arinaldo. To Bapak Deon, you may take the floor.
Okay, check. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We have just witnessed a declaration from the IPP Association, the IPP of Indonesia, to support Indonesia's just energy transition roadmap. And now this is the last session of today, and we would like to hear response from the stakeholders to that declaration. And that I'll just invite the stakeholders. For now, I will start with Pak Wanhar, Director of Electricity Program Development. Pak Wanhar, are you still joining us online? Good afternoon,
Yes,
Pak Wanhar.
Pak Deon.
Yes, thank you, Pak Wanhar, for staying with us. And also, I would like to welcome on stage the panelists from PLN. It will be the VP of Operational Power Plant Operation and IPP, Pak Suwarno. Pak Suwarno, please welcome on stage. And I would invite also Pak Pradana Murthy, Director of Risk Management for PTSMI. Pak Pradana, please come on stage. And also Pak Joko Sogi, VP of Investment from Indonesia Investment Authority. INA, Pak Joko. And last but not least, I will also invite Pak David Elzinga from ADB. Please come on stage, Pak David. All right, this is an exciting session, but unfortunately I'll need to keep it brief in regards of time. So I'll try to go through all the panelists and ask them how they respond to all the presentation, and at the end the declaration from the IPP. And then if we have some time, then I'll try to allow for 1 or 2 questions. If not, then I will need to apologize for now that we'll need to close the session. All right, so I'll just move first to Pak Wanhar, of course, although he's joining online. Pak Wanhar, do you have any kind of a response to the what IPP has just declared, that they intend to support Indonesia coal retirement roadmap, and therefore is there any plan to kind of like include this new variable and maybe make it more ambitious in the long term? Pak Wanhar, please, you respond. You have 3 to 5 minutes.
Pak Deon, izin dalam bahasa Indonesia aja ya.
Ya, boleh Pak. Ya, boleh. Benar-benar. Saya lupa.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Deon, Bapak Ibu semuanya. Terima kasih khususnya kepada APLSI ya, Pak Arthur juga terima kasih pada itu ISR ya, Pak Pabi yang menyelenggarakan acara ini, berinisiatif sehingga kami dari pemerintah juga merasa ada yang bertambah temannya nih Pak Deon ya. Jadi tadi kita sudah mendengarkan, melihat ya statement ya dukungan daripada APLSI. Tentu saja kami pemerintah sangat senang sekali karena memang ini energi transisi ini harus semua pihak ya Pak Dion ya, dan memerlukan waktu yang cukup ya, karena memang sebagaimana kita ketahui kita akan membalik dari 60 saat ini ya, sekitar 68% ya porsinya fosil itu ya, batu bara akan menjadi nanti terbalik menjadi 0 di tahun 2058 mungkin ya. Nah sehingga segala sesuatu itu perlu kita koordinasikan dengan baik sehingga tidak ada yang tertinggal ya. pihak-pihak. Nah, sekali lagi Pak Deon, karena memang tadi seperti kami sampaikan, IPP saat ini itu sudah 43%. Bahkan PLN hanya 42%, sisanya 15% itu dari wilusnya non-PLN dan captive power. Sehingga kami mewakili Kementerian SDM sangat berterima kasih atas support yang diberikan APLSI. Mungkin itu sementara Pak Deon, terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Anwarhar. Jadi memang peran semua pihak ya Pak untuk terlibat untuk mendukung just transition ini sangat penting untuk didorong. Apalagi IPP tadi disebut 40% dari pembangkitan ya Pak. Jadi perannya sangat besar nih untuk intensi ini, harapannya tentunya bisa mempercepat transisi energi tentunya. Lalu saya akan lanjut ke stakeholder berikutnya, pastinya adalah PLN. Mohon maaf mungkin dari Pak Adi ya harusnya. Sekarang digantikan Pak Suwarno, tentunya kita tetap mau mendengar nih Pak. Dari PLN sebagai main stakeholders, sebagai partner, sebagai IPP, bagaimana melihat dan apakah sudah ada sebenarnya diskusi atau mungkin arah untuk mendukung ya IPP just transition juga Pak. Silakan Pak Adi. Silakan Pak Suwarno.
Baik, makasih Pak MC. Pertama-tama kami sampaikan permohonan maaf, seharusnya hari ini yang hadir Pak Adi Lumakso, Direktur Manajemen Bangkitan. Berhubung beliau ada kegiatan dengan berhakam ke PL pembangkit di Pesanggaran sehingga beliau tidak bisa join offline di acara hari ini. Mudah-mudahan saya bisa menyampaikan beberapa pesan dari beliau untuk saya sampaikan di forum pada pagi hari ini. Selanjutnya kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada APLSI khususnya Pak Arthur Simatupang ya atas acara pada hari ini yang luar biasa. Mudah-mudahan ini menambah semangat kita dalam rangka untuk energi transisi mekanisme. Terima kasih juga dari Kementerian SDM ada Pak Wanhar, tadi ada pembicara Bapak Thomas, Bapak Rida, terima kasih Bapak beberapa pembicara, terima kasih atas presentasinya. Yang pertama dari PLN kami tentunya sangat komitmen dan mendukung untuk net zero emission 2060, di mana secara umum tadi disampaikan Pak Wanhar ya, beberapa tahapan terkait dengan retirement PLTU. Di dalamnya juga ada, saya kira ada IPP ya. Sebagaimana kita ketahui bahwa di Indonesia ini banyak potensi renewable energy. Nah, itu harus kita kembangkan dan kita manfaatkan ya, kita manfaatkan bagaimana ke depan itu bisa optimal, bisa terrealisasi sehingga bisa bermanfaat maksimal buat kita maupun generasi setelah kita. Yang kedua, sebagai utilisasi company, PLN selalu komit terhadap pengembangan EBT dan PLN juga mengutamakan pelayanan pelanggan di mana pelanggan PLN saat ini masih didominasi oleh pelanggan rumah tangga yang memang sebagian besar masih disubsidi dan tentunya ke depan harus inline dengan harapan pelanggan yaitu harga yang terjangkau oleh pelanggan. Jadi ke depan pengembangan renewable energy juga harus mempertimbangkan masalah terkait dengan price. Tadi juga sebutkan Pak Wanhar bagaimana LCOE-nya harus lebih baik atau mungkin maksimal sama. Yang ketiga, untuk retirement saya kira perlu ada sinkronisasi ya. Tentunya kami dari PLN berharap bahwa kecukupan daya untuk melayani pelanggan harus ada. Tadi juga disampaikan Pak Wanhar bahwa baik itu dengan masuknya transmisi maupun pembangunan renewable energy. Jadi kita harapkan cadangan tetap ada sehingga pelayanan kami ke pelanggan tetap berjalan dengan baik. Itu yang menjadi salah satu poin kami agar proses transisi ini tidak mengganggu pelayanan PLN kepada pelanggan-pelanggan PLN. Dan tentunya kami juga mendorong pengembangan dan percepatan penguasaan renewable energy untuk mendukung terjadinya energi yang berkeadilan, di mana resources energi yang kita manfaatkan untuk digunakan sebesar-besarnya kemaslahatan rakyat, bangsa, dan negara. Barangkali demikian Pak MC, nanti bisa kita bicarakan lebih lanjut. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Suwarno. Yes, and now I'll move to the other three gentlemen here. And yeah, I think PTSMI, INA, and also ADB has already collaborated to move forward this energy transition, right? Yesterday we have witnessed that this announcement of ETM country platform, and there's also like a project, a Cirebon Electric Power, I believe, a pilot project there that will, will adopt one of the mechanism that could allow them to retire their power plant earlier. And I think Pak Suwarno just now has touched on a very important point, which is that we also need to not just retire power plant, coal-fired power plant, but also deploying the resource to develop renewables. And also, I would like to connect with the presentation from the Philippines, the ASEAN, that they also have managed to kind of like utilize this opportunity to gather enough investment to actually develop renewables. Now, I would like to ask the three of you the same question, similar question actually. How do you see the challenge in moving the investment from coal to renewables and actually use the investment in coal to develop renewables? And do you see the same challenge as what they have seen in Philippines? And what are the way forward? So a little bit of elaboration instead of just responding to the statement. Mungkin Pak Pradana dulu.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, I would like to congratulate APLSE for the announcement, and the commitment. I think this is very important. As much as SMI had this limelight yesterday as the country platform manager, I think it's imperative to say that SMI is still the supporting actor. I think we are all here as supporting actor. The main actor is in this room, PLN, as well as IPPs. So the main actor is still you. SMI, ADB, INA is supporting actor. So the things that we have been doing, this country platform, blended financing, I think it's a response to one big picture, which is climate change. Our minister, Bu Sri Mulyani, has repeatedly said to us in multiple occasions that climate change and all those derivatives, ESG, energy transitions, and so on and so forth, are here to stay. Whatever your belief, whether this is something to do with political agenda or technological advances or whatever, I think the conclusion is that this is here to stay and we have to react on that. And this is the one of the answers that we came up together, from the financial institutions to try to support the main actors in undergoing transitions. And it's also resonates to what the earlier presentations about the connections between energy transitions and the whole economic perspective, socio-economic perspective. We're not just talking about the issues of how to transition from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy. This is already complicated in itself. I will tell you a bit more about our perspective in that. But the bigger picture is it's all about economic transformation as well. as you can see from the presentations earlier, that a lot of regions in Indonesia are highly dependent on extractive industries, yeah, including coal. And if we are talking about climate change and transitions, energy transitions, what are they going to do about that? You know, this is all about economic transformation as much as energy transitions. So let's not forget about that yet. So the challenge is much bigger. How to transform the economy of a region from extractive industries to something more greener. So that's the biggest challenge that we are facing today. So in micro level, it's about energy transitions. As we know, there's two parts of that, which is retiring coal or fossil fuel and invest in renewable energy. Each part has got its own challenges. Retiring coal, I think coal is getting more and more deemed as stranded assets. There's not a lot of financial institutions, especially internationally, who are willing to put their money into coal due to reputational issues as well as taxonomy issues. So we need to unlock that. If we want to be able, financial institutions, particularly the international ones, to be able to put their money into coal transitions, then first we need to unlock is the taxonomy. So this is a global issue, not just Indonesian issue. The global issue that has been raised in COP27, because I've been there as well, to UNFCCC, that this taxonomy needs to be unlocked. So a certain transition taxonomy needs to be developed. It will take time, but if that can be unlocked, then a lot more private capital can be mobilized to coal transitions. That also relates to carbon crediting mechanism, because this is like the two sides of a coin, the taxonomy and carbon methodology. We have carbon reduction methodology, but not yet carbon avoidance methodology. So how to bring this coal emissions projections in the future forward. So this needs also to be developed for the carbon market to establish. So there's a lot of homework internationally, globally, but regardless to that, I think we are committed, yeah, in the country platform and the partners. We signed yesterday 14 MOU with 14 partners, including ADB, and INA is also there with us. So we are the main supporting actors here. We try to help as much as possible PLN and IPPs. On the renewable side, there's still a lot of homework to be done. Already Perpres 112 is a good sign, but still there's challenges on the ground regarding land acquisition issues and so on and so forth. So still challenges, but I think we need just to keep trying. And SMI has quite a unique positions. I think some of you may see SMI as a public institutions, which we are. We are a proxy to government. We are very close to government, but we are also a market player, yeah. Because some of gentlemen is sitting here are actually our partners, yeah, already. So we can see these are committed companies who are transitioning themselves from fossil fuel to renewable energy. So I think we are excited to keep supporting IPPs that are willing to transitions, and we are trying to provide a solution as much as possible. That's for me. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Pak Pradana. I think there are a lot of opportunities that you have mentioned, trying to link everybody together and push forward this energy transition. You mentioned about the needs to kind of like integrate the roadmap into a more broader perspective, economic transformation, and also maybe some framework like carbon price and trade that will need to kind of like unlock this investment further to enable this energy transition. Okay, Pak Joko, please.
Yes, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you first of all to Pak Arthur and the PLSE for the invitation to INA. So I think a quick introduction for the INA, Indonesia Investment Authority, is a Indonesian sovereign wealth fund. So we just been established 1.5 years ago at the beginning of 2021. And our mandate is quite simple, to invest and to get partner. And with us here today, I think as Pak Dana mentioned yesterday, we established a good momentum to kickstart the ETM program. And from INA side, what we have been done and what we are seeing over the past 6 months when we are start discussing this ETM, this is all about collaborative effort. Yeah, this is all about collaborative effort. So we have a good partner from us, PLN, SMI, ADB, that I think David will explain more about the first pilot project that we plan to do, the IPPs, and also all the lenders. Because at the end of the day, to execute this ETM program, we need to have a good blended financing. And to have a good blended financing, we need to have a buy-in from the lenders. Like Pak Dana mentioned, all the banks need to be comfortable to see this as a transition program, not only investing in coal. That's why from the beginning itself, we also engage with several so-called quote-unquote the environmental, the ESG, the transition legitimation, just to make sure that ETM is legitimized and this is a transition and it's not like to be seen as 100% coal. Yeah. So from INA side, we already established and already look into like 3 IPP assets as of now. And more than that, I think we welcome if any IPP, because this is more like IPP forum, I noticed that, and we welcome IPP that is interested to partner with INA and SMI and all the friends here to, if you are interested, we are more than happy. Because when we see this program, if we succeed to execute the pilot project, this is gonna be a scalable program. Maybe we start with less than 1 gigawatt, but if you see like IPP capacity is close to 20 gigawatt, half of the capacity of Indonesia. There's still room if anyone wants to get into the ETM. And from the INA side, over the past 6 months, we also try to engage with several lenders. Unfortunately or fortunately, we see the rising interest rate environment is something that we need to tackle as well. But surprisingly, to our surprise as well, from the lenders, what we have seen, we already received close to more than 10 LOIs from the banks, regional, global banks, and also the local banks. So we believe that at the end of the day, as long as it's still commercial, we can execute this ETM program here. So I stop there, and maybe David will explore more about the IPP. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Pak Joko. And yes, please, David, your take on this statement. And maybe you could also bring about a more global experience on ADB, on how to advance this energy transition, could actually, how to move these investments to actually deploy renewables, maybe from your global experience. Please, David. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Congratulations to APE LSE on the document signing today. I think that's an exciting step forward. Thank you to IESR for putting this together today. It's a pleasure for ADB to be part of this. You know, reflecting on the global side and bringing that back into what is happening here in Indonesia, coal over the past 20 years was, I think, first seen as a real opportunity to bring electricity to the global population, and that's an incredibly important endeavor. And you know, from my professional perspective, I don't want to look at coal as you know, dirty or the enemy. This has been part of the development solution around the world and has brought a lot of prosperity and development to many countries. And I think that's my one starting point. But it has come at a cost, and that's the climate cost, the health cost that goes with that. So I think I very much see this as a part of you know, hundreds, if not thousands of years of energy transition, and that we are just simply at a single point where we're moving from coal to renewables. And so I think it's very much an opportunity for all actors to say, look, this is how we did things before. Now we're moving to doing things with renewables. How can we go from this point to this point? And so that's thanks for asking me to comment on renewables. We've focused a lot on accelerating the retirement of coal plants, finding ways to do that that are fair but ambitious towards shifting to renewables, because we still need the electricity. So we have to look at both sides of the coin. The focus, I think, on accelerated retirement is because this was a gap in the dialogue. We've been talking about solar and wind and geothermal and biomass for many years. We've seen a tremendous momentum, but there was a little bit of a hesitation to talk about, what do we do with this coal? You know, people just didn't want to talk about that. So now we're talking about it, and I think it's incredibly exciting to see the AC Energy transaction in the Philippines, the Chirban electric power transaction that we announced yesterday. And we're seeing progress. We're seeing options on the table to move this forward. And these are not the only options. We have to continue to challenge ourselves. How do we support this transition with other models? How do we you know, looking at PLN and their ambitions to move towards net zero, how do we find ways to support this that makes sense for the broader development agenda of Indonesia? And you know, we can't just say climate only. Climate needs to be part of this development agenda. So let me end with one, I think, really key point, is that this is a partnership among many, many actors. ADB is happy to be part of that group, but you know, we signed together with INA yesterday, we signed with PTSMI yesterday, we're working with ESDM, we're working with PLN, we're working with MOF, CMMI. These are all important actors in the power sector to really support this transition from coal to clean energy. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Yes, so we are actually 11, so I don't want to keep all the people here in this room, because I think this is a busy day in Indonesia. It's a summit of G20. So, so if it's okay with all the audience here, then I will just end the session here now, and probably I'll just take a note of two important points that all the gentlemen here has mentioned, and also Pak Wanhar, that this is a multi-stakeholder effort, a collaborative and partnership is needed to actually advance everything, and for that to happen, I think a clearer destination is needed, some kind of like, which is becoming clearer day by day when we advance this dialogue and move forward together. And the second part is to look into a broader perspective. I think we also need to consider other stakeholders involved, and as I just borrowed what Pradana mentioned about economic transformation, we need to move away the economy, not only just the energy. Energy is part of what makes the economy moving. So economic transformation is a must, and for that, we also need to bring about a more inclusive partnership with all the others that maybe just go beyond this room, the stakeholders that are here in this room. And then for the end of the session, I would welcome Pak Arthur, if you have any response to what have been discussed so far. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's comment and insight from each of the gentlemen that are in the stage. I think I just like to have a general comment on what was also stated just from ADB, the fact that you always need to focus on two sides of the coin. Right? Everyone always highlights on the acceleration of the retirement, but then what we're trying to retire is actually something that is higher emission. But we're not trying to retire from the electricity because that's what the nation needs to continue to grow. And I think, what we need is actually to have more of the project pipeline coming into the system from the renewable side in order to have the exact or even more of the energy replacement from lower emission source of energy. So I think that would be a good question to ask, whether the structure going forward will allow that, right? To have some sort of a bundling solution from the retirement of coal going into renewable, because that will be also expedite and accelerate the transition even faster, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Pak Arthur. And is there a question? So you need, yeah, if anyone wants to comment on that, I'll welcome them. Pak Wanhar, Pak Suwarno, Pak Pradana. Yes, Pak Pradana.
Yeah, Pak Arthur mentions about blended financing. Yeah, I believe, and blended financing is something that we have been trying to do since 2018 when we launched SDG Indonesia 1, which is at that point the focus was on SDG related projects, including renewable energy. And that has successfully amasses 3.2 billion USD worth of pledges from partners. However, as we know that there's still challenges on the development of renewable energy, challenges that we face on the ground. So the progress is quite slow. And now we know that one of the issues is that we have an excess supply of coal. So that's one of the issues that we have to sort out first. And now the ATM contract platform is another blended finance solutions that is also to enable, hopefully, financing to coal transitions. So that's all related with what the financing industry is trying to do to support the energy transition. And hopefully we can make this blended financing happens, because we are trying to tackle the real issues here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Pradana. Maybe another comment from PLN, maybe? Cukup. Yeah. Okay. Okay. With that, I'll end the session today. Thank you for all the participants and also the great panelists that I have today for your time. And now I'll return the floor to the MC. Thank you.
Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, we will have a photo session with our speakers and moderator. Okay, please, the gentleman here, Bapak anggota APLSI, silakan untuk naik lagi ke atas panggung. Kita akan melakukan sesi foto bersama. Oke. Untuk seluruh anggota APLSI diundang untuk naik ke atas panggung. Fotografer, udah siap? Oke. 3, 2, 1. Oke, sekali lagi ya Pak. 3, 2, 1, gayanya dong. Iya, sama ya semuanya. Oke. Oh, gaya love. Oke, gaya love. Sarang heo ya. Oke, 3, 2, 1. Ya, udah. Terima kasih. Dipersilahkan untuk duduk kembali. Oke. Bapak silahkan untuk duduk kembali Pak. Once again, please everyone join me in giving a big round of applause for today's high-level discussion. So now we have come to the end of this forum, but before that, I would like to invite the Executive Director of IESR, Bapak Fabi Tumiwa, to give a closing speech. For Bapak Fabi, the time is yours.
Wow. And first of all, I would like to thank to everybody. You have a very busy day, busy time here in Bali during the G20. And we know this morning the traffic is not really helpful. It was bad. Some people have to cancel their trip here, including some people from the ministry because the traffic, I mean, there's a lock in Nusa Dua area, but some of you have made it. And thank you very much for also for those who join online. Thank you very much. This is, today shows that one thing that we all know, that just energy transition needs collaboration, partnership, and effort. It won't come easily. But I know that the today event shows that we can achieve that through this collaboration. I would like to thank also, especially to APLSI, my colleague Arthur, Pak Lokita, and the rest of APLSI also member. And it's not an easy process. In August this year, ISR published a report on financing coal retirement. And we understand from that report that it requires to be aligned with 1.5 degrees target and Paris Agreement. It requires to retire 9.2 gigawatt of coal plants by 2030. Half of it come from PLN, half of it from IPP. And as many institutions and also governments are working with PLN to ensure PLN come on board, we think that it is good also that someone has to work with IPP to bring them into this initiative. So after that, we communicate with APLSE, and the good thing is that there was a good response from APLSE. So we had a couple of meetings, including workshop with them in the last few months, and today it shows that they also on board, and we really thank to the leadership of Pak Arthur and Pak Lokita and the rest of APLSE leadership to support this initiative. Well, this is not the end of the journey. I think there are three main important follow-ups that needs to be done. And it has to be done in parallel manner. First of all, of course, as all speakers also mentioned, that it requires, to make this happen and successful, it requires partnership and collaboration among different stakeholders in Indonesia, energy, especially power sectors. So we would like to continue the dialogue, build the same understanding, understand the risks and opportunities that lie ahead of us. So dialogue with PLN is very, very important. They're the one that manage the system. They're the one that also bear the risk of this phase out. So we would like to continue the discussion even furthermore with PLN, as well as Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, as also mandated by Presidential Regulation number 112 in preparation of the roadmap of early coal phase out. And that's very, very clear from the regulation point of view. The second thing that needs to be done is conduct robust technical and financial analysis, and we'll see what is actually the benefit of this early retirement to the energy system, what is the impact to the costs and affordabilities, as well as at the end is about business, right? So how we can find the right financing structure to help the IPP to retire early. And this kind of analysis is very, 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 very important to make this more IPP, not only Cirebon, to sign more concrete step to retire their coal asset. At the same time, we have to work with different institutions, SMI, INA, and the rest, to figure out the financing source for this. Once the financial analysis is done and working with the potential investors. And the third thing that needs to be done, as also Pak Arthur mentioned, it is important that it is to develop the renewable energy project. Because we move from the dirty one to the clean one. And only retiring the coal, it's not good. It will jeopardize the energy security. So at the same time, then we have to work to prepare the renewable energy project, and by the time the coal plants has to be retired, the renewable energy are there. So it will ensure energy security, sustainability, and affordability of energy services in Indonesia. And I also would like to say that in this journey, ISR would like to work with all of you, with ADB, INA, with APLSE, with PLN, and others. We see our role as catalytic to this effort. And I would like to chase you maybe after all of these meetings to work and to plan what needs to be done together under these three items that we have to carry out in the next few months, I hope. With that, again, I would like to thank everybody for your time, and thank you very much for being here, and enjoy your the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Bapak Fabi Tumiwa to close this session. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our session today. Hopefully today's discussion can be an inspiration, a reference, and togetherness to be able to cooperate and integrate it to achieve the success of this energy transition, as well as an opportunity for us to reshaping our strategies and collaboration on climate action in various sectors. On behalf of the host and committee, I would like to extend once again our deepest appreciation to all of you for making the time to join us here today. And thank you for all the participants and the speakers who join us on the Zoom. Please apologize for any inconvenience and the mistakes. I wish you all a pleasant day, stay safe and healthy, and please enjoy the networking session and the lunch at the Grand Benoit Resto in the first floor of this hotel. And it is near the garden. So ladies and gentlemen can directly go to the resto. Thank you very much and good afternoon.